After years of waiting, Project 4K80 has finally dropped. For those who are unfamiliar, these 4K projects, 4K77, 4K83, and now 4K80, are native 4K scans of the Star Wars original trilogy 35mm film reels, done by the fans. The reason these projects are so near and dear to me and a lot of other Star Wars fans is because these original theatrical versions of the original trilogy haven't gotten an official release since the DVD special edition back in 2006. And even that DVD version was just a Laserdisc rip dumped onto a DVD. So as you can imagine, the quality was horrendous even by the horrendous DVD standards. Fans were basically forced to watch these special editions of the films with a ton of useless CGI additions and color changes. This has left fans clamoring for these original theatrical versions to be released on a modern format, whether that be Blu-ray or streaming or whatever else. Unfortunately, Disney hasn't budged, and these theatrical versions remained locked in the Disney vault. Officially, at least. You see, back in 2018, some extremely dedicated fans got their hands on an original 35mm film reel of Star Wars A New Hope, or as it was known back then, just Star Wars. This was a film reel that would have been used in the theater back in 1977. They took this film reel, scanned it at 4K, cleaned it up at 4K, and then rendered it at 4K. So if you were to watch 4K77 today, it would be the exact same experiences that audiences had back in 1977. Then they did the same thing with Return of the Jedi, and now finally, they've completed Empire Strikes Back. If you go to the original trilogy website, which I'll leave linked down below, you can read all about the restoration work and all the other tidbits about these projects. Now with that all being said, let's talk about 4K80 specifically in terms of its presentation. If you were to download the native 4K version, then you'll get about a 58GB file, while the 1080p version is about 40 gigs. Personally, I downloaded the 58GB 4K file, and that's what I'll be showing in this video. As you can see in the opening to the film here, which I'm muting to avoid copyright, you can see all this grain. Now, I'm guessing some of you may not like grain, which is totally understandable. Me personally, I don't mind it. It gives more of a filmic look, as if I traveled back in time to see this back in the theater. But if you're not a fan of the grain, but still want to watch these unaltered versions of the movies, there are releases of both 4K77 and 4K83 with DNR, which means digital noise reduction. It smooths out the image, removing most of the grain. However, in doing so, you do sacrifice a bit of the video quality, but they're still perfectly watchable. Now 4K80 is only in its version 1 form, so this version I'm showing you is the only version that's available so far, but I have no doubt that they'll later down the line release a DNR version of 4K80 too. You'll notice that the colors across the board have been restored back to their original form. So the snow on Hoth actually looks like snow and not a watered out blue or a washed out gray. I'll show a couple more comparisons on screen, but the point is, even setting aside the fact that 4K80 is the only version now without the CGI inserts, it also is just the best version in terms of color, assuming of course that you care about the accuracy. I have no idea why George Lucas and Disney keep insisting on messing with the colors. I understand that part of it had to do with compression for certain formats, but still, I just don't get why you'd mess with it. But, that being said, at least it's back in its original form now. As I mentioned before though, all the re-edits are gone now too, so now we have the original Emperor back.
There is a great disturbance in the Force.
I have felt it.
We have a new enemy, Luke Skywalker.
Yes, my master.
He could destroy us.
He's just a boy. Obi-Wan can no longer help him.
The Force is strong with him.
There is a great disturbance in the Force.
I have felt it.
We have a new enemy. The young rebel who destroyed the Death Star. I have no doubt this boy is the offspring of Anakin Skywalker.
You may not know this, but the Wampa sequence in the beginning of the film was also completely changed. I prefer the original version of the scene because I feel it builds more suspense. It's kind of like Jaws in the sense that you don't actually see the shark or the Wampa. You just know something bad is there, but you don't actually see it. It's little changes like that that go a long way. Now, to be fair, Empire Strikes Back is the least messed with of the original trilogy, but that being said, Empire is my favorite Star Wars movie, so I'm super grateful that I now have access to the definitive version in full 4K, along with the rest of the original trilogy. Now you may be wondering, how can I download this? Well, the answer is a bit complicated. It involves some programs that I can't talk about on YouTube, but if you head to the original trilogy website, again listed in the description of this video, you'll find all the instructions you need there and on the forms that are also listed on that website. Just make sure you use a good VPN if you download it. I used NordVPN, and it worked perfectly for me. I should also mention that you should own this film legally before you download this, otherwise it could be considered piracy. I own all 11 Star Wars movies on 4K Blu-ray, not to mention countless merchandise, so I more than supported Disney and everyone who worked on these films. With that all being said, I can't recommend 4K 80 enough. Like 4K 77 and 4K 83, these are now going to be my go-to ways of watching these films. Thank you all for watching.